Hi, my name is Selah Cambias. I'm from Metairie, Louisiana, which is right near New Orleans, and I'm a certified archetypal consultant and mom of 3 kids. What I teach people is to get along better with their children. Parents are taught the different personalities of their child, and then I help them work within those personalities to get along better. I'd like to share a couple of stories with you. One is about how I discovered how this works, and another story about how it worked for a gentleman. In 2009, when I became certified as an archetypal consultant, I went into it to learn my own personality types, archetypes, and my life's purpose, and then to help others as well. And as I worked more and more with the archetypes, I started recognizing them in my children. I worked with these for over 10 years, and it just never occurred to me that it would be in my kids as well. And when it did, a light went on and everything changed. I have my older son who's a bit challenging at times. And one day he was bossing around his brother and sister, as he often does, and I recognized that he had a king type, a king archetype. So I took him aside and I said, you know, I think you have a king archetype. And it doesn't mean you are a king, but it does mean that you probably will be a leader when you grow up. And it would be great if you were the kind of leader that everybody loved to follow, because there are lots of leaders out there, and some of them are great and some of them are not so great. A benevolent leader is one that is compassionate and understanding, and people really adore following what he has to say. And then there are leaders that are more like a tyrant, that are very bossy and aggressive, and they are in charge, but nobody really likes it. You could see a light went on in his head. He completely recognized himself in my description of somebody being in charge, and it could be a good thing or not such a good thing. And I told him, I said, you're going to need some skills as a good leader. So those aren't naturally born with you all the time, so I will help you. I will help you by teaching you leadership skills so that you can be the best leader that you would like to be. And he totally resonated with that. His face changed. He looked so satisfied, as if he'd been really understood and heard. Well, fast forward a couple of years. He was 9 at the time, and he is in charge, and he's in charge of a group at church. And one of the members of the group, he became very frustrated with and screamed at him. Well, he told me a few days later, and I didn't know that had happened, but he did tell me a couple days later that he decided he needed to apologize to the boy, because although the boy was very frustrating, he didn't want to seem like a tyrant. Imagine my surprise when I realized it really sunk in. He wanted to be a good leader, and he was doing something on purpose to make himself a better leader. And he apologized in order to soften his mistake and then to try again. And that is the best any parent can hope for. So it worked so well. I've now shared this with many other parents, and I'd love to share one other story about a man and his 3-year-old little boy. He was telling me about his personality, and that he was very funny, hysterical, made him laugh all the time. And I said, oh, well, he might have a fool. He might have a clown archetype, which is very much like the court jester, because he likes to make his dad laugh. And the boy was only 3, and the man said, oh, he makes me laugh every day. I said, you know, there's something about the clown, the fool, the court jester, that many people don't recognize. And the class clown would be the example of a child that kind of makes a disturbance as well. The clown cannot stand hypocrisy, because it was the court jester's job to tell the king when someone was betraying him, and then tell him in such a way that the king didn't lose face. So he would use humor. So these children that are extremely humorous also cannot stand when somebody's lying or not telling the truth or not following their own direction, like a teacher that says, behave and don't be so naughty, and they're being just as aggressive. So the man said, absolutely. He called me a liar the other day. In fact, this boy's 3 years old. He says, I put them to bed at night, and when I tuck them in, I said, I'm going to come check on you before I go to sleep. And I do every night. But he comes in my room the next day and says, Dad, you didn't come check on me. And he says, of course I did. He was just asleep. He didn't remember. So that's why it's upsetting to him that he doesn't know I'm there. He thinks I'm not there, so of course he thinks I'm lying, and it's really upsetting. Now the great thing about this discovery is that the man realized it's not personal. It's not like this boy is just accusing him of being a liar. He just didn't know, obviously at 3, but his need for truth was so important that that's his way of expressing it. I made this suggestion. Perhaps he could take like a stuffed animal or a little toy and put it on one side of the room when he tucks the little boy in and says, okay, when I come check on you, I'm going to take this toy and put it in bed with you, and then you'll know I've been here. And it's a way of proving, yes, that I'm there for you and I'm following through, but it's also a way of helping the little boy recognize that his dad understands him and it's nothing personal and he's willing to work with it. So it worked brilliantly. But most importantly is the boy understood that his dad cared about his feelings and didn't take them personally, and was even willing to find a way to make sure he was satisfied. And there will be times when his dad simply can't. He cannot do something to prove himself, and that's not the point. But if he does it now and again, our children will understand that we really get them and we validate who they are. So the secret to this is to look for the patterns in your child and decide if you can sort of name the pattern. If you've seen it in a fairy tale, or have you seen it in a book somewhere, and then if you can name it as maybe a storyteller or a hero or a teacher or a rescuer, if you can name it, find the good and the bad and work within that. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And go out there and watch for the patterns in your children and work with them. Thank you.